Liberate IT is an Oracle NetSuite solution provider that has been servicing Australian and New Zealand companies since 2011.
So today's session, everyone, is really around project management. So I'm excited to have with me today Rebecca Paul, our solution consultant, and my name is Steve Pryor. I am the sales manager at Liberate IT. We're quite excited to talk about NetSuite project management to you all, and really showing how everything fits into the full NetSuite ERP system. Just give me a second there. Stop sharing my video. And today's agenda, I'm just for those that are just new to Liberate IT and familiarizing themselves with NetSuite, I'm just going to give you a bit of a background to Liberate IT, about NetSuite as a product, and then I'll hand the mic over to Rebecca Paul for the rest of the demonstration. Bit of housekeeping. So we are recording today's session, so we will send through our recording in the next 24 hours. Forward them to any of our colleagues. If you have any other questions, please email us at info@liberateit.com. Also, if you have any questions, please fire them through that chat or questions pop-up box there. And yeah, please, the sessions is all about yourself, familiarizing yourself with NetSuite projects. So a bit about Liberate IT. So we've been around since 2011, actually over 11 years now. We have over 120 customers across Australia and New Zealand. We're a dedicated Oracle NetSuite partner. So that's all we do. We sell, we implement, we support, and do development work with NetSuite. And we're awarded the 5-star partner, which is the highest award that any partner achieves promoting or implementing and supporting NetSuite. We're quite excited last year that we were awarded the JPAC Excellence in Customer Service Award. So that's a reflection on Liberate IT and supporting our customers across Australia and New Zealand. So we're quite excited to be awarded that in 2021. So if you look at the ERP market, we traditionally have, the smaller accounting systems like your Xeros or your MyOb or QuickBooks. Then you have the mid-market, which is, MyOb, Exonet, MyOb Greentree, MyOb Advanced as well, Sage Intacct, even some of the Microsoft products. And then you've got the larger tier 1 systems like your Oracle or your SAP, Technology One, JD Edwards, typically large governments or large multi-company corporate companies will be using those types of systems. But the good thing about NetSuite is that it manages across both sides, different size organizations. We've worked with companies that are small startups to mid-sized companies to enterprise. We worked with companies that are just a 5 to 10 user size organization to our largest customer, that's 5,000. If you look at NetSuite as one unified system, and what we'll be showcasing to you today is really around the project management, but not only think about that, but how everything sort of ties in with NetSuite. And with NetSuite being a one unified system, the ability to manage both internally around different facets of the business, but then also NetSuite extends out to your customers, your vendors, having access to NetSuite. So a bit about NetSuite. So it's been around since 1998. So it was built in the cloud from day one. So what that means from product maturity, NetSuite's, when you look at other cloud business software, NetSuite is a market leader and quite innovative, being cloud since 1998, since day one. NetSuite got acquired by Oracle in 2016. So what that means is having a stronger infrastructure around data centers, around the ability to have Oracle to support NetSuite. They're used by 32,000 organizations globally. When you're talking about data centers, there are 2 data centers, one in Australia, one in Melbourne, and one in Sydney. And NetSuite is ranked the number one cloud ERP. So if you look at the different industries, and there's so many different industries that require project management, and then the thing that ties it all together is it is quite specific, because NetSuite is modular based as well. So we work with these different verticals, from small startup, high growth companies to enterprise. Typically, what we find a lot of our clients using NetSuite are the manufacturing, wholesale distribution, services, non-for-profit, and retail. And so we have a lot of customers, especially in the services space, that uses the project management tool in NetSuite. So these are the NetSuite features. So if you can see that clearly, professional services, that's all we'll sort of be covering off today. But then you look at NetSuite and some of its other features. And again, I touched on earlier, with NetSuite being modular based, it's really working with our customers and prospective customers about what they want from day one out of NetSuite, but also understanding what the growth plans are, and understanding what the future looks like for our customers. So NetSuite has capability to do professional services, finance, accounting, CRM, inventory, revenue recognition, sales order management, purchase order management, case management, fixed assets, manufacturing, wholesale distribution, and global accounting consolidation. And also to add to that, NetSuite has third-party partners or applications that they've built or had integrations to. So, for example, payroll, and also if you have an existing website like your Shopify, your Magentos, WooCommerce, WordPress, just some of the common ones there, NetSuite has integrations too as well. So our approach when it comes to implementing NetSuite, so it's we call it a shared or collaborative approach when it comes to implementation, because we work quite closely with our customers. At the end of the day, our customers will be owning and running that system. So, from day one, we work through a collaborative effort. We talk about a NetSuite champion with our customers, and working with Liberate I.T's consulting team as well. We've got a raft of consultants that are qualified accountants, that are industry experienced as well, and some of the consultants that have come from the customers as well. They love NetSuite, and they joined Liberate and become full-time consultants. So when it comes to a process, when you're looking for those for our attendees today that are looking at NetSuite and really want to understand the project management side, and they sign up to NetSuite. So we start off when it comes to kickoff. We start off the project through workshops. The next stage, we talk about your NetSuite champion and getting them quite involved in the project from day one. We go through a configure of the initial processes. We talk about master data and data migration from your old systems and cleansing that data. We talk about customizations and integrations to existing systems that clients want to keep. So, for example, websites. We refine those processes. We do full process testing. We do a lot of UAT, which is user acceptance testing and training. And then we have go live preparation. Then we have go live, and then we transition you to a hypercare or support. So typically our projects can vary from 3 to 4 months to projects 12 to 18 months. So it really just comes down to size of the organizations that we work with, and also functionality as well. We've got clients that have just wanted NetSuite finance and accounting, which was just a smaller project because it's just finance and accounting. And then we've got clients that wanted the full manufacturing, and that's sort of the timeline from 12 to 18 months. These are some of our customers that we have across Australia and New Zealand. Again, NetSuite's not specific to any industry, and that's the beauty of NetSuite being quite modular based. It's really understanding what's you want out of NetSuite. But again, we've got different companies from small startups to large enterprise from different industries. As you can see, we've got manufacturing customers on here, retail. We've got professional services clients that use the project management and what you'll see in today's demonstration, to software and services and education. On that note, I'll stop sharing my screen, and please, if you have any questions, fire them through and I'll work through them with Rebecca. Rebecca, can I hand the mic over to you now?
You can, Steve. I'm just sharing my screen now. Let me know when you can see my NetSuite screen. Well, thank you, Steve, for that introduction to NetSuite and Liberate IT. As Steve mentioned, I'm going to go through a demonstration of NetSuite today. And we're going to look at NetSuite from the perspective of professional services. So we're going to run through and we're going to have a look at the different roles, dashboards, and KPIs. We're going to go through and have a look at some projects, how we can enter time against those projects, expenses, and also supplier bills. We're going to invoice those expenses on the project, and then we'll have a look at some project reporting. Please feel free to ask any questions as we go through. We want to make this as interactive as possible and for you to get the most out of it. Okay, so I've logged in as Catherine Glass. Catherine is our NetSuite administrator, so she has an administrator role. Anybody who has access to NetSuite will have at least one role, and the role governs your permissions, what you can do within the system, and how you can access the system. So NetSuite is online only. There are no offline capabilities. So as I mentioned, Catherine is logged in as the administrator. This is the most powerful role. There are no restrictions on this role, and typically we would only give this role to either your NetSuite champion or maybe the business owner. There are other roles. So if I hover over here from a demonstration perspective, we've got all of these different roles, and we'll go through and have a look at some of these in a moment. But let's explore the dashboard first. So the first little box that we have here, and we call these little boxes portlets. So the first portlet that we have is what we call the reminders portlet. The reminders portlet works like your to-do list. It notifies you of things that you need to do or things that you need to be aware of for your role. So we've got here a standard NetSuite reminder. So when I say a standard reminder, the system comes populated with about 120 pre-built reminders based on what NetSuite thinks that businesses need. And businesses such as professional services businesses, and then WD or manufacturing businesses as well. So the reminders are built specific to the different types of industry that you're in. So this reminder here that we've got is overdue invoices. This lets us know that we've got 18 overdue invoices. But then we can take this standard reminder and add some filters on to create our own. So I've created this one here that are invoices open over 30 days. So we can see here that we've only got 4. Everything that you see on this dashboard is in real time, and it is completely drillable. So I've opened up this report. I can see that we've got 4 invoices. I can see the dates they were created. I can see how many days overdue, the companies, any other information. So if there was any memos or notes, I can also customize this view to show any other information that I want to show on here, maybe who our contact is, any overdue notes. And the reason you'll also notice that I open up everything in a new tab, and that's because when I've finished, I simply close that down and I'm back to my home screen. You can also put color alerts next to your reminders. So as it hits a certain number, the color changes to alert you to things that you need to kind of prioritize. One of the next the next portlets is our key performance indicators. So again, the system has pre-built standard KPIs, but you can also create your own. We can use any different comparison periods. So for example, in the sales, I'm looking at this month versus same month last financial quarter to date. Our payables, I'm looking at today versus same day last month, opportunities won this month versus last month to date. You can completely create your own comparisons. Again, everything that you see here is completely clickable. So I can click through to my sales list for this month. It's brought up here a list of all of my sales, so how that number is built up. I could click on a specific customer and it's going to bring me up the invoice and credit memo detail for this customer. So I can see all of those invoices that make up that amount. And I can continue to click until I'm at that granular transaction. So now I'm in this invoice, I can see that it's been paid in full. I can see all of the top level information, but also the item. You'll notice that we've got two things on this page in blue, both the customer and the item. This means these are drillable and clickable. So I can click on this and drill down into the customer or into the item. But I'm going to close out of there. We can also highlight any of those KPIs that we've got so we can see what the difference was last year or last month, whatever our comparison period is, we can highlight that information. We've got a little KPI meter here. This is simply showing the same information that is showing in this report, but it's in a more visual representation. So it really highlights where we're at. So we can put that against a threshold. So we might have, we've got a threshold here of 1.1 million. If we had, for example, if we're at 500,000, it would be showing orange. And as we get closer and closer, it gets obviously the green when we've hit our target. The next little portlet that we've got here worth mentioning is what we call a scorecard. And the scorecard is designed to give you a snapshot into a specific area of business. So this practice management scorecard is letting us know the project billing below forecast and our billable headcount. And so what this does is it's really designed to give you that real snapshot into a specific area. So we don't have to have this. So for example, we might want to look at some financials. So we might want to look at, let's say, some executive financials. And we've got all of our sales, gross profit, cost of goods sold, and days outstanding report. So again, a real specific snapshot into that area of business without having to run multiple different reports. It's all here in your own, on your dashboard. We can change the different indicators and you can also change the periods. So you can build your own, but as I mentioned, the system does come populated with standard scorecards that we can use. We've got a nice little graph here. And in this case, we've just got the top 5 time entries by project. So the projects that are generating the most time. And another little graph to show us what our billable versus non-billable time is. We can also see another little graph here of our monthly sales trend. I might want to look at that also by a graph, but I can also look at that in different time periods. So I might want to look at that yearly. And then if we go monthly, I can also look at that very quickly as a comparison this year versus last year. So we can see how we've changed and how our sales are tracking year on year to date. So this is a bit of an overview of a dashboard. As I mentioned, that there are different roles. So if we came down to, for example, a financial controller role, the first thing we're going to notice is all of the reminders, all of our reports are specific to what a financial controller would want to see. All of the reminders are around, you know, journal entries to approve, invoices overdue periods to close. Our KPIs are around sales, payables, receivables, expenses, our bank balance. We can see our receivables trend. So really geared up to what our financial controller within the company would want to see. We've also got a role, I guess, more tailored towards professional services. So there's a project manager role, and you can essentially create any role you like with the permissions. So it's really, we take a standard role that's closest to the permissions that each different user will need, and we just slightly tinker those roles to suit each user. So within our project manager, we can see all of the things that a project manager would want to see for their project. So the expense reports that they need to approve, the time entries that they need to approve, any milestones overdue, etc. The KPIs are all about utilization. So what is the utilization rate? So currently it's at 60%. What are the billable hours? So we can show all of that. We can also see a list here of my projects. So what are the projects that I'm interested in? So I might either be a project manager or I might be a resource on the project. I can see quickly at a glance what projects, what way through the project we are and when those projects started. I can also change the view of this and look at it in any other different way. So I might want to just look at my projects. I could also change this for a status. So look at all the projects that haven't been started. You know, we can tailor these in any way that you like. We can also see here some project tasks. So this is at the granular level. When we get into those projects, what are some project tasks and who's been assigned to them? We can see any project backlog, and I've got another example here of incomplete timesheets. So we can see people who haven't been completing their timesheets. So that's a bit of an overview on the dashboards and the different roles that we can have within the business. We're going to navigate now and have a little bit of a look at a project record. So I've got a project that I have created. So one of the things that is very commonly used within the system is what we call this global search. And so the global search works a lot like Google search in that it searches your entire database and it looks for any field or keywords within fields. So it looks for company names, phone numbers, people's names, reference numbers, invoice numbers. So I'm looking specifically for a project, and I can either type in the project number if I know it, or I can simply type in the company. So every record has a prefix. So for example, a customer is CU, a contact is CO, an invoice is IN, an item is IT. So for a project, it's PR. So it just helps to narrow down the search. So I'm specifically looking for a project for Country Energy. And I'm looking for the quick project. So we've got here down PRJ22. So I could click directly in and now I'm at that project record. Everything you see on the screen here can be customized to suit your requirements. Fields can be moved around. We can add new fields. We can remove fields that aren't applicable. These screens can be highly customized. So we can move the tabs around. We could add additional tabs to suit your requirements. So let's just sort of walk through a little bit about the project record. So at the top here, we can see all of the primary information, who the project manager is, who the customer is, what the status of the project is. And then moving down, we can see the number of hours that we've got assigned for this project, the percent of the way through the project we are, and then down to see the classification. So what department is this project for? What is the class? What is the level of risk of this project? So all of that sort of high level information. One of the things to point out at this stage is we can have multiple different types of projects. We can have projects that are specifically for customers that can be billable, or we can have internal projects. The projects to customers don't also have to be billable. They can be billable or non-billable. And then we can also have internal projects. So whether it is you've got a team of people that are working on development of an internal asset, we can track all of their time and expenses to that and help and then convert that to a capitalized asset. Or we can just record time and expenses against, an internal asset internal project that people are working on. There are lots of different types of projects that we can create. So there's multiple different uses. So as we scroll down here, we've got some tasks and a bit of a schedule of tasks. So these project tasks here are what we've got standard for a setup of a quick project. And this can all be set up as a template. So when we create a new project, we can say we want the quick project setup, and it's going to pre-populate all of these tasks with the allocation of time next to them. So how much time does each task take? What are the different service items, and what types of resources we need assigned to them? So whether it's a business analyst or a consultant. So it really helps speed up that data entry process. And there's no limit to how many project templates you need or you can have. Over on the financial tab, it lets us know what billing type we've got. So there are different types of billing types. We've got time and materials, we have charge-based billing, we have milestone billing. But in this case, we're using charge-based billing. So we can see here what our charges to date are, what we've got ready to invoice this specific customer, and we can see here that we haven't actually billed them anything to date. We've got an estimated gross profit based on the resources assigned to the project. So then we can come through here and we can look at our resource details. So when we first set up a project from our project template, we assign placeholder resources. So we've got here a placeholder resource for our ANZ consultant and a placeholder resource for our business analyst. So far for the project, we've converted all of the tasks that were assigned to our ANZ consultant over to Abby. But I can see here that we still need to assign the resources to our business analyst. So we can come through here to reassign the tasks. So here we can reassign our tasks. So I can select on the resources that are listed as our ANZ consultant, as our ANZ business analyst. So in this case, I might want to reassign them to Adam. I can pick and choose what I want, whether I want to apply all of the tasks or just some of the tasks. And then I can go ahead and process those changes. So then what it's going to do is it's going to add these tasks and this project across to Adam. So now Adam can enter his time onto this project. Under our time tracking, I can see any time that's been allocated to the project so far, and I could change my view of this to see exactly what project tasks the time has been entered to, but in this case, I just want to see a summary. Any communication, so we can email team members or the customer directly from the project record. So we can see here that an email from Mark, the project manager, was sent to the customer, introducing them to the project team. So any replies that come back will also come back into your inbox, but also assign and attach itself to this project so everyone can see all of the correspondence going back and forth. We can see all of the relationships or the contacts at the customer. If there were any sub-projects, so you can have sub-projects, projects within projects. And under our related records, we can see all of the different types of transactions to do with this project. Excuse me. So any purchase orders, supplier invoices, expense reports, timesheets, and invoices that we've already sent the customer. You'll notice that some of these records have a little dot on them. That means that there is an entry under that record. So when I click on vendor invoice, we can see that we've got an entry. But if I look at a purchase order, there's nothing sitting there. So it's just a little indicator to let you know the tabs that have got information in them. And then we've got here a little project indicators to let us know how the project is going on a whole. And the last little tab worth mentioning is our P&L. So every project has a P&L, and as employees put time, as we track expense reports and supplier bills, all of that information is coming through. So all of the costs are building up. And then obviously any charges that are run, we need to invoice those out. So those are sitting there ready to be invoiced out, and it gives us a project margin. So lastly, one of the other things to mention is, as well as having a home dashboard for every role, our projects and customers also have a dashboard. So this dashboard gives us a key snapshot of that information. We can see some high-level project information. We can see a project snapshot of our project indicators. We've got some links for quick entry of things to do with our projects. We can see what % of our project we are through with our KPI meter. And again, this project has only started this month, but if it was a duration over several months, we would have at the end of that month what the previous project % complete was and what we are currently. And we can also see our Gantt chart. So what are the tasks? Where are we sitting with those? It indicates where we currently are. So we can now see that we've got Adam that's been assigned to some of those tasks. And we can have Adam and Abby assigned to the same tasks, or they could be also assigned to their own individual tasks. And then so we can see our project milestone that we've got here is obviously our project being complete on Monday, the 31st of October. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and have a look about how we would enter time against the project from an employee or consultant perspective. So as I mentioned, there were lots of different types of roles that people can have based on what they need to do within the system. So one of the roles within the system is what we call an employee centre license. So an employee centre license is a very, very cut down version of NetSuite. It simply lets someone enter some time, enter an expense report, and enter a purchase order. So they don't need to see any of the other project information or any of the other information in NetSuite. So it is a much sort of cheaper role. And that's what one of our project resources, Abby, has. So I'm going to come through to our employee centre role. And we'll notice straight away that I'm now logged in as Abby. We'll also notice that her role is pink. So if you do have multiple roles, you can have all of those roles at different colours, so you know when you're in one of your other roles that it's a different colour. So Abby has some reminders on her dashboard, so she can see that she currently has 467 billable hours. She's got 8 incomplete timesheets, and she's got 1 missing timesheet from last month. So she's got quite a bit of work to do on her timesheets. So the first thing we're going to do is enter some time. And there are 2 different ways that Abby can enter her time. She can either track an individual time entry, or she can run a weekly timesheet. So by tracking an individual time entry, we can come through and enter the date that it happened. We're going to enter our customer. So when we type in the customer country energy, I know that they had about 7 different projects, but Abby is only on a resource on 3 of those, so she can only select 3. So we're going to select our quick project, and then we've got our tasks. So there were a lot more tasks that were within that country energy project. However, the other tasks were actually assigned to Adam. So these are the only tasks that are assigned to Abby. So I'm going to come through here, and we're going to put on Monday that she did 8 hours of travel. So I'm going to make that on Monday. Oh, that was Sunday. Let's make that on Monday. So she did 8 hours of travel. We can put down a department. This can either pull through dynamically from Abby's record, or it can pull through dynamically from the project record. You can set that up however you need it for your business. And we can save that record. If I save it, it means that Abby can come back and amend it. If I submit it, it's automatically going to go through to her supervisor for approval. So that's gone off to her supervisor. So the second way we can enter time, and I'm just going to refresh that because I've added an extra line, is by using the weekly timesheet. So we can see that it was starting the week of the 14th. We can see all of the entries that Abby has already currently entered. We can see that she's got 2 entries here that's already been approved, but these entries here are pending approval. So I'm going to come through and look for my project. So I can either type in the project name, I can type in quick project, I could, however I want to find that. Again, I can look for my project tasks. So the next one that she's doing is some configuration. Put down that it's professional services, and I want to put down that we did 6 hours. Again, excuse me, I can either save that record or I can submit it. So we can enter our time in. Excuse me. So we're going to enter our time for this quick entry project. I'm going to do that for professional services. And we'll enter our 6 hours of time. So we've added our line, and then we can come through and we can submit our timesheet. I haven't got a location, so it's told me why my record hasn't saved. So I've now entered my timesheet, and now I can go ahead and submit my record. Excuse me. Right, so we're going to go back to our home dashboard for Abby's record. So there's 2 other things that Abby can do from her employee centre role. She can enter an expense report or a purchase request. Excuse me. So we've got an expense report here that Abby has already entered. Now you can enter, one of the other things that NetSuite does is it comes with a mobile app. And so you can get that from either iOS or Android stores. And it's free to use. Excuse me. So this could have been entered by her phone and then submitted up. So we've got an employee expense report here. She's got her purpose or her reason is a visit to a customer site. She's picked a category of local accommodation. So you can set up categories. So it makes it easier for the person entering the timesheet, and so they don't have to know the GL codes that it needs to go to. So we've created a generic local accommodation code. She's linked it to that customer or that project, all of her other things, and we've got an amount. And over here, we've also picked yes, that we want to bill that to our customer. She's got her memo here, and we can also see that she's got her file attached. Okay, so now that's pending her supervisor's approval. And the same, a similar thing for her purchase order. So if we go in and have a look at her purchase order, we can see that she's entered it for a supplier. She's picked an item that we've got as a stock level item, but she could also have that as an expense category, and the same way she did that for her expense report. And in this case, it's not going off to a customer or a project. And that's also pending supervisor approval. You can have different people approving different transactions. So, for example, you might want the project manager approving anything where a project has been linked or to be on billed to the customer, or you could have a different purchase approver for different departments. It really is, you know, we can build the DFA process dependent on how you want it to run within your business. Okay, so now we've entered those project costs. Let's go through and approve those so we can on-bill them to our customer. So I'm going to log back in as our project manager, Mark. And we can notice if I refresh my dashboard, we can see now that we've got some more time entries to approve. So the first thing I'm going to do is I know that I've got an expense report to approve, and then we'll come through and approve some time. So I can see that there is my expense report for Abby. So I'm going to have a look at this. I can see all the information's all correct. I can open up that attachment and make sure that the charges match, that I'm happy with that line. Then I can come through and approve it. Now, the expense report is not ready and will not be shown on the invoice to the customer until it has been through the initial approval. So you'll notice here that it still says that it's ready for accounting approval, and that's because there is two separate approvals. The first one is subordinate, so that is our supervisor approval to make sure it's okay. And then the second one is a finance approver, so either the financial controller, and that's to make sure that the GST is correct and all of it is entered in the correct way. Whereas Mark is simply approving that, yes, we can spend that money and we can reimburse you for that expense. So we've approved that transaction. It will show, and the other thing is it will show on the invoice if it has been marked as subordinate approval, but it's still waiting for financial approval. That's fine. It just needs to go through that first level of approval. And then the second one here is we've got some time entries to approve. So I'm going to quickly come through and open up these time entries for Abby, because these are specifically the ones that I want to show on her invoice. So I can look at it as an individual time entry, or I could approve her whole week's worth of time. So I could come through and look at that as a weekly timesheet and approve it once, but I'm going to come through and just approve each line. So now we've approved all of her time entries, we can go back through and run some charges and talk a little bit about charges. So I'm going to log in back into my administrator role. I'll just close some of these tabs down. Okay, so rather than typing in here my project record, I know that I've already been into my project before, so I can use my recent records. So hovering over this button here, I can navigate into this quick project. So if I come back down to my financial entry, I want to talk a little bit around charges. So the way the system works when we're doing charge-based billing is we've got two different types of ways to run this. We could do a fixed fee rule. So this is where you want to charge a set amount to a customer. This could be the same amount every month, or it could be a one-off, or it could be a different amount each month. So if we go in and have a look at this one, this is just a one-off and it's for a kick-off workshop. So they have to pay $5,000 to get the project kicked off. So in this case, it's a single event and we want the charges to run on the 14th. So that just means that up until the 14th, there was no, if I went to invoice the customer, nothing would be showing. After the 14th, we now have a charge that is run. So this $5,000 now is sitting there waiting to be invoiced. So we could have that as a monthly, a daily, a weekly event, and it can just reoccur on the same day of each month or the same week of each month, and it will just start sitting there in the background to invoice the customer. The second type that we've got is time-based rules. So I've got a time-based rule here. And so what that means is it means that for every minute or hour that's entered on a timesheet that's marked billable, we're going to invoice the customer and our rate is based on this service item. So anytime anyone on the project enters some time against any one of the items, that rate will be charged to the customer. We can also do expense-based rules. And so what that would do is that would collate all of our expenses and create one line for each different type of expense. In this case, I just want every time expense entry to be entered individually. And we can do the same with our purchases and supplier bills. And just before we go on, I want to show we've also got a supplier bill for this customer. So using my reminders, I'm going to, sorry, my global search, I'm going to enter, we've got bill number 1254. There we go, our bill 1254. Okay, so we can see that this bill has been fully approved. Its category is local travel. It's going to be assigned to our project. So we can see here that the local travel, this is our account code that it's been coded to behind the scenes. And we can see what the amount is and that it's marked as billable. So it will be on charge to our customer. So I just wanted to sort of walk through that process so we can see that any expense report, supplier bill, journal, anything like that can be on charged to our customers. So let's go back to our project. So because we've got some project billing rules set up, I want to run our charges. So what happens is every single night, and we can see around 12 o'clock at night, the system will automatically run charges across every single project, and it will generate a charge for any time it sees something that meets these fixed fee rules. So I'm going to come through because I know that I've entered some time entries that have been approved and an expense report. So what would typically happen is tonight at midnight, that would generate those charges and it would create some charges that we can on charge. But I'm actually going to push that through. So I'm going to hit generate charges. And the system's letting me know that it's looking for those and running those charges. So this isn't typically something that you would need to do for every project. The system will come through and do that for you automatically. So we can come through and we can see that we've had 4 charges successfully generated, and those 4 charges are simply those 4 time entries. So now we're all ready to come through and bill our customer. So we're going to come through to transactions, customers, and invoice billable customers. So we can see here we can tick and untick the different things that we want to charge our customers. So I want to make sure that I pick up any expenses, any items, any charges, or any time entries that have been charged to this customer. And then there's a few different ways we can bill our customers. In this case, we're creating one invoice for every project. But what you can do is you can create one invoice per customer, and then the projects will all be invoiced on one invoice. In this case, we've just set the system to do one invoice per project. So I'm going to come through and click on the invoice button. So it's pulling through all of the information that it can find regarding this project and this customer. So we've got all of these different items. So these are our different time entries. So when Abby was entering her timesheet, she was putting different time entries down beside what she was doing. So these here are all of our individual time entries, and this line here is our fixed fee for that workshop kickoff. We've also got some expenses here, so we can see here that we've got our flights to the customer. So this invoice is now all sitting ready to invoice, and I can simply hit save and invoice our customer. So then it will create an invoice, and obviously then we can show that on a PDF in any way that we want to. And you can have different PDF formats for different customers. So we'll just wait for a moment for this invoice to save. And while it does that, we'll go back to our project record. Oh, there we go, it's just saved. Day 22. So we've got our quick project. So one of the things that we can see now is we can see our progress is changing. So we've got, based on our time of our calculated and our actual, we can see that we've fully completed 2 of these tasks. So we're getting closer to the completion of the project. We've also added some more additional revenue around these projects. So what we can do up here is we can recalculate all of our financial data. So what that's going to do is the system's going to work in the background and it's going to update our P&L. So we can now see that we've got a revenue line against some of these items, and our margin has now changed to 84.8%. So very quickly, that is as sort of an overview of how we would manage the project, or one of the many different ways that we can use projects within NetSuite. The last thing that I just want to cover very quickly is some reporting. So the system comes complete with, again, 150 to 200 different standard reports. based on, again, the modules that you purchase. So we can see here under financial, we've got all the standard financial reports. But what I want to do is just focus on 2 of the reports that we've got for projects. Obviously, there are lots of other reports around this where we've got time and billables, all of those kinds of things. But if we just look at our one of the reports around project profitability, we can come through here and look at our project profitability as a whole across all of our projects. I can collapse that up so I can just see one line per project and see all of our projects. And then I can obviously expand on the projects that I want to maybe know more about. We can also look at those reports, that project profitability. We can look at that by month. So if we want to expand that out, I might want to look at that from September. I can refresh that. So we can now see how our project profitability and our margins have changed per month. So what we might want to do if we're looking at it a monthly view, because this is quite a lot of information, is actually remove how all of this sort of detail of the report. So we're just simply showing profit and margin. You can customize these reports in any way that you need to. And lastly, one of the other things that we can do is we can look at project charge forecast. And so this is typically if you are putting in your project budgets and also if you are using revenue recognition. So we can forecast out these projects to know what we are due to receive in each of the months, forecasted out. In this case, this demo account, we haven't set it up in that way, but it's one of the things that we can do when running projects. So yes, that was a very sort of a high level, quick overview of one of the ways that NetSuite can run professional services for your business. It was a very sort of high level, broad brush look at projects. So if you do require, a more detailed demonstration or you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
We hope this video gave you the information you were after. If you have any further questions, get in touch with us using the links in the description.